How's it going, Mikelle? It's been a while for us. What's
I
going on?
know. I know. Several weeks, which is not is not the goal that we were setting out to.
Yeah, I know. We're gonna have to stick to a New Year's resolution like one of these days, but
I
I think
know.
it's always summertime too. I noticed it with like a
Right.
lot of the
I know.
podcasts I
Well, we
listen
have
to,
excuses
right?
galore because then we're heading to the holidays and it's like, oh, it's so hard.
Oh my gosh, I know that's gonna happen immediately. Isn't it
It is.
weird?
It's creeping up on us. We already have those stake signs out in the community of our residential area that are promoting hanging holiday lights.
Wow,
I know.
really?
That's
And
like above and
Halloween's
beyond
everywhere.
the Costco shit having their
Yeah.
stuff out on the shelves already.
Oh my
That's
God, the Halloween stuff now starts around what, August 1st? It's
mm-hmm.
unreal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
God.
I know.
What's
Now you just
what
know to expect it, but it's still annoying.
what's the latest with work and clients and everything else? Everything doing well?
Yeah, I have a good balance between those that I'm just managing it on my own and those that it's like the MKM team, it's more collaborative and the weekly standing meetings with panel roles on the
Oh,
client's
sure.
end, which is lovely. I like to be able to have a mix and match
Yeah.
between the two. Um, but man, do you have those accounts, Nick, where you meet every week and it's the same old shit? It's like, well, so what's new and
Ooh,
developing? Have you gotten feedback on this? So why are we
yeah.
meeting? And
Yes. It's when like trying to be the weekly productive, let's keep things in order
yeah, it's
thing.
to keep everyone
Yeah, when
in
there's nothing to
movement,
when
yet
yeah,
that's not happening for
when there's
this
nothing to
particular case.
report, it kind of ruins the whole idea of having those weekly meetings. It's
Right.
like, but I wonder too if I'm hearing from most of my friends that work in bigger groups or still working with employers and things like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it sounds like there's still this really weird mix of no one knows how to get things done anymore because like the COVID kind of hiccup
Uh-huh.
that changed everything and then everyone's coming back and we learned new traits. It's like it sounds
Right.
like everyone's still in a bit of a pickle
I
trying to
know.
figure out
And
meetings,
you're right. And
right?
it's a hybrid of the hybrid. It's a hybrid of those
Yeah.
that are remote, that are in house 100%, those that are 50% of that. And that's tricky. That's tricky to accommodate all and know how to keep
Yeah.
everyone. Yeah. I mean, do you have accounts though where everyone is in house? It's refreshing. I have one in mind right now that I'm thinking of where everyone is in house. They all have the same.
Yes.
I know that they are because they have the same backdrop behind them. And
Oh
I've been
yeah.
to the office space before.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the way it used to be. But now
Yes.
that's uncommon.
Yeah, I think most of mine, if they're not restaurant or small brands, they are all under one roof. They
Mm-hmm.
are back
Mm-hmm.
to working together, which is
Mm-hmm.
interesting. And I'm seeing it's almost like growing pains coming out of
Yeah.
having this flexibility of hybrid. They're all trying to figure it out again, which is
Yeah.
really interesting. And I'm also seeing a little bit of some like it's 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 like over communication and it's not working. Like it's so weird. Like they communicate so much. They're on a Slack channel. They meet in the hallway. They meet in meeting rooms. They meet on Zooms, and yet they're still not covered. It seems like, and I'm like, what did we not learn anything? It just cracks me up. Yeah, it's weird.
I mean, what a waste, first of all.
It is.
Internally, overhead wise.
Yeah.
It's frustrating to notice that, but it's not our position. It'd be stepping
No.
on toes. We can't mention that directly to our point of contact with any given client that
Yeah.
we notice this. That's not our job.
Yeah. Unless like, it could help them out and they want constructive criticism the same way
Yes,
we
if they
want it,
request it, you're totally
you
right.
know?
But
Yeah.
um yeah, it's interesting. I mean, we've been cultivated with this type of work setting since, for well over a decade now. So it's the norm and
Yeah.
you know what you need to do.
Yeah.
But I don't really get it. I don't
I
it
know.
if
Now,
we're feeling the frustration, can you imagine? I mean,
oh,
for those internal
yeah.
folks that are on top of it and noticing otherwise amongst their
Oh,
peers.
they must be going crazy.
Yeah.
Like, this is more than ever the time for us as individual business owners or creatives that work with bigger teams to make sure with every new client that you tell them from the very beginning, nominate a point person. I'm only dealing with one
Yeah.
person.
That's
And
important.
boy,
That's
I've been
important.
such a stickler on that, because the one new client that we just finished the project with, I
Yeah.
didn't say that up front because I kind of knew them a little bit through the connection that I got.
Yeah.
And boy, let me tell you, the floodgates were open when the first concepts went out. I was getting, Cindy from accounting and Tom from business administration. I'm like, wait a minute, haven't been in any of the meetings, like,
Oh,
and now you're commenting
that's
on,
not
like,
organized.
oh, and then everyone just wanted to do this chain of
Yeah.
command, and I looked at the
Oh,
chain of
I
email and I was
know.
like,
Once
no,
you've
no,
been through
no.
that, like, as
Yeah.
just to ensure that doesn't take its own face again
Yes.
with any other given account, I
Yeah.
am sure to say to the project manager on a project, please consolidate in one lump all
Yes.
feedback that you obtain from your stakeholders, please. Don't
And
do
how
the
did you agree?
piecemeal.
And what did you agree on? Like, because
Yeah.
it could be, that funnel could be a mess of disinformation or different
Yeah.
opinions.
You
So
know
they
what's
have to come up with,
complicating this even further, Nick, is
Mm.
that outside of opinion-based feedback internally, there's also user testing for all this
Oh
web-enabled
yeah,
platform and
whole other
UX
level.
experience altogether. So it's a plethora of feedback, and it has to be funneled. Like, there's no way.
No. And now it's working for the two really active clients right now that I was really a stickler at
Good.
the very beginning, and they loved the idea, and
Yeah.
they have kept it so good that it's just the one person, and they
Excellent.
are representing the entire team
Great.
and giving me consolidated notes.
Excellent.
It's a lot to do with
Doesn't
what
that feel
we're
great?
gonna talk
And
about
it stands
today.
out like
Yeah.
crazy. Good. Good.
Oh
Yeah.
gosh, it's the
But you know
best. It's
what?
like,
This hybrid
yeah.
/ some remote, I've been wondering if that's why I've been seeing the same type of job posted 3 months later, because it's not working out on
Oh,
LinkedIn for one.
bingo.
That
Yeah.
has to factor in. For
I see
those
that
that
all the time.
say remote at the start and then they revise the post to
Yeah.
hybrid or in-house altogether for
Oh yeah.
full time. It's very interesting, if
Isn't that
not
crazy?
not to mention telling. Yeah.
I'm sure a lot of our listeners have seen the same thing. I mean,
Mhm.
I keep an eye out for stuff, particularly for like students and stuff, like different job things. And I do see that one entry, and it goes away, and about
Yep.
two and a
And
half
then it
months
comes
later
back,
comes back, and
circles
you're like,
back.
that's probably a lot to do with it. And I think we're getting a little bit more picky about where we want to work and what are the conditions and what's the culture of a
Sure.
place too.
Yeah. The candidate's all the same.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that would be a really fun one to talk about people's like kind of like experience of going through.
That would be.
I'm gonna try
That's
to find
real
someone I know
time.
who's really going through the job market. I think that would be kind of fun to chat with them, and I'm sure anybody going through it is going to feel all of the pains, with that, and maybe even some of the successes.
Yeah,
So
I think that would
that'd
be
be a good one.
interesting. I think that's a good thought. But enough about, like,
Yeah.
you asked me that question, bless your heart. But you on the other hand have been so busy too. You've been busy with Adobe Max and
Yeah.
promotional stuff. Yeah, talk a little bit about that and
It's
these
been
different channels.
It's been a great year. We've been to almost 10 different cities, talking with young designers and students from every different city, finding out kind of like what they're doing with their portfolios, how they're getting ready for the job market, and getting to see that what a taste to see that every city is really in the same boat. Like we do a lot of things alike. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's the same issues like my students are having, same issues a lot of us as even just full-time designers are having. So it's really nice to see that this is like a shared thing, and it's not just common to maybe a lot of times you hear, I remember listeners telling us, well, I'm in a small city and I don't see this. And I'm like, we're in big cities and we're starting to see like,
interesting.
It's not as community
I bet it
driven
would
as
be
it is.
relieving for your students to know about this. Have you shared it with them?
Oh my gosh, yeah. And then I put a lot of them in touch with each other. Like a lot of times it's like having a little like ally as you're getting through school and that first few years of looking for a job. And so it's really cool that Adobe does this. It's really been a blessing. I got on board with it about a year and a half ago, and it's kind of a neat thing to do as an educator too, because I needed to see this. I needed to see that we're not alone. This is something happening everywhere. And, the job market is the same. Every person has the same concerns that I feel like everyone has here, particularly in Los Angeles. And, so and it's been really a cool little thing, and getting to travel a bit's been fun too. So it's been
Yeah,
like,
for sure.
it's a fun little like
That's the cherry. It's really great to
exactly.
be well-rounded with and have that exposure yourself.
Oh, especially since, those years of like when we were like mostly home kind of based for a while.
Sure.
And now
Yeah.
it's like it feels like the floodgates are open.
Yeah.
And then doing it with
You're
the clients and
free.
everything, I've just been able to kind of find those, all those things we've talked about over the years. Like, how do you balance this with that, or whatever it might be, or a new client, whatever. And I think the best thing is like technology and everything has allowed us to be so on top of things. If we're at our desk, if we are in a cab, whatever it might be, I'm testing all of these waters to see like how to keep it afloat, and it's just working,
Yeah, great. Good for
knock on
you.
wood.
That's
Yeah.
amazing. Yeah, well,
So it's been
sure. I
great.
know, knock on wood.
Right.
Always.
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 I'm like, this isn't the new norm. It's gonna blow in my face one day.
Nah, you're good. You're good. Let's dive
So
into some of this stuff
let's do it. Yeah.
particularly.
This is great. I'm excited to do this. So yeah, I'm glad you
Me
mentioned this.
too.
This was
Me
a
too.
fun little project that just wrapped up. And it was probably, I have to say, one of my funnest projects to go through, even though it was restaurant branding, even though it was like right up my alley, and the owners gave me like full, creative control. It still had, they were such a blessing to work with, like, again, another knock on wood, when you find those people, and
It's a game
from like,
changer
you knew,
whenever that happens.
from minute one when the project's going to be like, I'm like,
They trust you.
I
It's going to
like
run
this.
seamlessly.
Yeah, exactly. So we're going to make this, it's quite a visual episode. I've got a lot here.
Great.
So if you're listening, go back and listen either on Spotify, where it has the video, or our YouTube channel. You can see all the fun stuff there as well. So I'm going to share my screen, and let me get you the right one. There we go. And so now we can see this as well. And I wanted to start with the initial, this is the initial headline, or like email that came through.
Okay.
And I was really interested to find out that it came from Behance.
Yeah,
Like,
interesting.
I was really surprised, and I asked the client, I was like, "Oh, I'm so glad you found, my Behance kind of like presence there. What made you look there?" And I think she said she had heard through other people that were starting businesses that instead of going and trying to find websites, go on this thing called Behance. She had no idea it was like an Adobe thing, but it was like, put in exactly what you want. I need restaurant branding in Los Angeles. And I think the one thing about Behance, if you're using it, you probably know this because I've seen this a few times. It is a great way to promote your business. And you can make just a carbon copy of your portfolio or your website over on Behance. And that's what I have. So I just have like a carbon copy of what's on the website.
Yeah, excellent.
Is there.
Interesting.
Yeah, so this was really cool. It was when I saw a cafe, I saw Newport Beach, which is a beautiful beachside town here in Orange County in the California area. Aren't these the ones that you just kind of go like, oh my God, I'm already tasting it.
Well,
right?
Right. You sit back and you read it like maybe 3 or 4 more times. Like
maybe. Yeah, that's true. That's the best. So this was cool. They came with just this, and they wanted branding, and I know the drill when it comes to like the package you can put together for this. So just like anything else you've done as a designer, like if you could take it A to Z, let them know immediately. So I immediately was like, this is great. Let's talk a little bit more. Let's get into it. And we had a few good conversations. And then what we did was, I have this presentation that I put together. And this was my first time really putting a pretty like well-organized kind of creative brief together. We did not have a name yet, and we called it No Name Cafe at the beginning. And for a second there, we were like, hey, this might be good, right? Like,
yeah,
kind of fun. But this has all of the stuff that after a few sit downs with them, and when I heard what they wanted, and then as we talked, I think what's great about that discovery, doing it live and together, and not just giving them a questionnaire, but having the live conversation, you get to put in, like your 2 cents in a lot of these ways, right? So as we were putting down the brand personality, it was like we were really thriving off working with each other. And I would say something, they would finish, or they would say something and I would finish, right?
Okay, yeah.
And so we did everything
That's
from
right.
even like the archetype, who this is. We knew it was a small breakfast and lunch diner, no dinner. They had their space. We knew where it was going to be, and they had this like incredible secret recipe for these hot cakes, for pancakes. They
Okay.
call them They
Awesome.
call them Billy's crispy cakes, and I had them last weekend. Let me tell you, oh my god, they are so freaking good! Like,
Oh
just
man.
amazing. Like, just like there's
Savory and
no.
sweet, or just sweet
Oh, they have it
breakfast
all.
item?
They have both. They have
Okay.
both. So you can get them either way, which is awesome. So
Awesome.
as we were doing this, the everyday man or the every woman kind of archetype was really who we were going for. There's really not who everybody wants a good breakfast or a good
Sure.
lunch, right? You know, and just a good atmosphere. So tone and voice, this is where you can bring in the first few images and things of like found imagery. And like what I love about this was it was telling a story with the brand. They loved hearing this. We talked about who the demographic is, and I used a really cool chat GPT called Brand Builder. And what that is you put in everything. You put in all of the stuff, you're coming up with everything. It's doing is it's giving it to you in a really great presentation, format. We put in everything from all this stuff, who it should be, who is the demographic, what's the voice, what's the tone and everything. And then we ask it to tell us about what's the behavior of our demographic. If the demographic is this, what's their behavior? What are their habits, right? What are their decision-making things?
You're saying we a bit. At what point did you start to bring in other team members? Did you start this initial discovery phase solo?
All solo? Yeah. All solo and just with them, with the clients. So
that being the collaborative, and that's impactful.
So much fun. Oh, and then it's like, look, if you could drive the wheel a little bit, and it's not like these roads are like you're going to go through it perfectly. There's always going to be a hiccup or two, and that's totally expected.
Inevitable.
But working with them, and when they're seeing this level of detail before you've even shown them anything, you're so much more. You're gonna nail it with that first round of concepts because you've taken the time to do this.
Yeah, and they love to obtain this. They understand that you've done that grunt work at the forefront.
Yep.
For descriptive takeaways here,
totally.
And that's wonderful.
So one of the things too is I said, what are some of the needs and desires of this typical demographic? But one of the things I love with this quote, I asked it to say, like, what would a typical person say if they wanted something like this? So even this line about, I work hard all week, and on the weekends I want to relax with my family over a good meal. I appreciate places that make us feel welcome and serve food that never disappoints. So like all of a sudden you're getting this, like, it's painting a picture for them, but also for you. Like, don't forget, we are the ones that are going to be creating this stuff. So I think in a lot of ways, I needed to hear this just as much as they do, right? So you can see it gets a little bit into like what sets you apart. What are your guiding principles? This is something they could put in their back room for the employees down the road, right?
Yes.
And so here was the fun part. We actually started coming up with the names because they had no name.
How fun.
They wanted to call it Mama's Boy, which I thought was like the greatest name, but it was already taken with something fairly close by. Yeah, and then you just, you want originality. You want to make sure.
Sure.
So, but imagine if a client says to you, like, we want to call it Mama's Boy. Doesn't it automatically like start to paint a picture of like maybe what their expectations are going to be like? Because you're oh, they want to have some fun with this.
Yes.
So this was the first group of names that we came up with. And one of my favorites was this one here, Nifties. I loved the idea of like, we were talking diner. We're thinking very nostalgic. We had this idea of like mid-century, but not mid-century over the top, right? Like mid-century can be really like played out in a lot of branding. So all of a sudden, that was the one I was favoring, but they came back, and what was so great was one of the owners' names is Billy, and he's the main guy. So Little Billy's became the winner. And I was like, we have a name.
So now like, when you prepared this summary of options for naming, did it just come to you? Did it take days? Did you wake up in the night and think, oh, that's a good one, I'm going to add it to the list?
So smart. Yeah, that is exactly what I have as my next slide. Look at you. It's like you're predicting this. I love it.
Okay.
So if you've done some naming, I'm assuming, before too, like even in brainstorming. I
love
and everything.
This exercise.
Oh, this is the best. So
it's the best.
Some of the stuff I found was, here's some rules to kind of like, or like commandments. keeping it simple. Look at the location. Does the location have anything unique or cool about it? Does it evoke emotion? Trying that one word, one word is optimal, but 2-word is obviously just as good. What are their core values? Is this something very unique about the place? Make it humorous. Like, let it be memorable. Let it be remembered.
Yeah.
And so,
for
to
sure,
me,
all of these deliver that.
Isn't it cool?
Gussied up. These are so clever.
And my favorite was, I'm sure you've heard of the term salad days. It means it's a slang for a period of carefree innocence. Like, a lot of people say, like, oh, back in my salad days, I used to do this. And
yeah, interesting.
It's such a cool term.
It is a very cool, friendly, approachable term.
Right?
I don't know that I knew the technical definition. I just know how to interpret it into context.
And we were fearful maybe people would think it was a salad place, and it's not.
Right. So, vegetarian only or something. Yeah.
Right? Like a Sweet Greens or something like that. But here's one thing I think that happens to answer your question. When you come up with a really good name, I think it snowballs, and that starts a whole new, so each one of these columns, maybe Attaboy was one of my favorites too. I love that term. That too. When you just say like Attaboy, and it's like a song I was listening to at the time called Attaboy. I was like laughing, going like, oh, it comes in the weirdest ways, right? So I think when you come up with something, it's like the new little influence that makes you think of 3 or 4 new ones.
Yeah.
Which is really cool. I love that idea. So Little Billy's became the name. We checked it out all over the place.
Bada Bing is so hilarious.
Yeah, Bada Bing was a good one.
These are fantastic. Okay.
It was really
wonderful.
Fun. So what we did next was kind of moved over. Oh, look at that scan. There we go. Okay. So I'm going to show you a little bit of like some fun little tips that we did. So
love this.
When we were here, we had written down this cozy mid-century modern minimal breakfast diner interior, right? Light blue with wood tones and everything. And I want to show you what I did. So this was literally what we got from the client and we were talking, right? And if you haven't used this little app called Firefly, which is, I'm going to bring this over and show you. Have you ever used this?
No.
Okay, this is totally free with your Adobe subscription. Watch this. So in this little bar, I'm just going to write in here, cozy mid-century modern, minimal breakfast diner, all that kind of stuff. And I'm going to hit generate. If you are just in that phase where you haven't even drawn anything yet, but you want the client to start to understand your vibe and what this might look like.
Board. This is more appropriate mood board.
Look at this. Is this
holy shit? Look at that.
Is this not the most incredible? Like, look at this. Like, furniture suggestions, tile suggestions. How might the silverware and the glassware look in the back, right? Look at this one. I mean, to me, this was like the coolest little starting point to be able to do this in 5 seconds.
And are you just using your web browser with Firefly, or how are you pulling this in?
100% web browser, no app required. It's basically firefly.adobe.com. You can go right to it and try it out. And what's cool about this is I can instantly download this and I can imagine this rather than a mood board of another restaurant that already exists.
Right. People don't want to see that.
Yeah.
And they don't want to replicate or mimic.
Yeah. And all of this, Adobe curates it from Adobe stock, which is paid for art, right? These people get paid because their work is in Adobe stock and it's used to power Firefly like this. So it's as far as if you are having any issues where you're thinking of credibility and things with AI, it's really great to see that this is what they're doing. And I wanted this because when I got to this page here, if I got to show them this, look at this is what the owner did. She came up with when she was doing this with the interior designer. Look how close the work that we did in this image here became the actual samples that she picked when creating the design and everything within the interior.
Wow. So very
if that can come from you, let's call ourselves the graphic designer, but also the vision, the creative designer, the creative director on this, like, why not be that person to help out, with your client? This was such a game changer. And I love this idea because these were the original ones that that came through. And when she saw these, she immediately went like, that's our cafe. She's like, and we hadn't even designed a logo yet, right? This is just from the name and all of the creative brief. And she was so excited and so happy, which was awesome.
Fantastic.
So
what
I
a
had
great
a blast
way to
with
start.
it. And so this was like the beginning. This was like, these are some of the first fonts we chose, some of the first like vector. I'm not great with doing mascots or character art. So what I did was
it's foreign to me too.
I found a few people that I trust that are really great designers in this. I sent them some sketches and I said, like, is this in the realm of maybe mascot material? And they gave me a few little like changes, but this was the one that we really kind of loved. This, like, it reminded me of like Dennis the Menace and like was it Family Circus? Remember that comic where the young kids always had those like bubble, it's just comic book, right?
Totally.
It has that look.
Yeah, retro.
And they weren't expecting a mascot. They were just hoping we'd have a great logo and we'd be kind of sailing. But I wanted to try
with use of typography alone, perhaps,
and maybe an element or two. Maybe like, you know, we were trying out things like this little, like the little flag. You know, we were thinking like, when I thought of Little Billy, I thought of him as like, imagine if he built a little fort in his backyard or in his house and he had a little flag.
Now, are these visuals disrupting or in conflict with Billy, who's a part of the team on the client's end?
He knew already. I think I had already gotten the kind of like, not green light, but to explore this, I knew he would love this. Like, you're right. Like you want to test the waters a little bit. Like this could be the person going, I don't want to have a character or something like that. Yeah. He loved the idea and he saw the value in it, that his personal preference or taste didn't matter. It was like, if we can come up with something fun and it's revolving around a fun little mascot, he knew the value of that in the restaurant. You know? Which is so cool. So
but then that's less consensus based and more about him. However, did you mention he's the owner?
Yes.
So that matters. That has some emphasis.
Yep. And we decided Little Billy's, so it obviously told me he'd be down for this.
Something contributing boy would be totally fine and dandy.
And I'll show you the presentation that went out, because not all of them had the mascot.
Sorry, I didn't mean to. Yeah.
Oh no, and I'm glad you mentioned that, because I think you're so right. It
can sway without us noticing it in the process.
Yeah, read the room, right? Yeah. So here's something interesting. These were the 5 I came up with that were for my presentation, right? And one of the things.
And then are you coming up with these tagline pieces?
Everything, yeah. So good food, great memories. What else did we have? Retro flavor house, stacked with love. That was a fun one because it was all about pancakes.
Yeah.
Again, using my own kind of like, I came up with maybe 5 or 10, and then I put them in ChatGPT and I said, this is the vibe. This is what we want. Do you have anything else? Trying to see if it can kind of just even give me a word that's not in my vocabulary that I want to try, right?
Yeah.
So over the years, I think we've all shared how we try to get better with each like presentation and everything. And instead of just sending logos like this, I'll share with you guys kind of the first presentation that went out to them. And again, designing delicious memories for the title, like I'm trying to start the storytelling on page 1, right? Rather than just say Little Billy's logo exploration, which I used to do. I'm trying to put in a headline that gets them right at the beginning, right?
Mood is right there in the face. Love
exactly. It. And then number 1 is to put in a little bit of a greeting.
Story.
Let's start telling the story. So this is welcome to the Little Billy's logo concept presentation. Yep. I go in here and summarize what we've already talked about, so it's top of mind. But I also say here that our objective is to strive on which one of these logos best fits where we want to go. Like, let's not get into the weeds with these. Let's just look at them and say,
which is difficult for people to do. A lot of people have a struggle with this, but I get what you're doing.
So if you see here too, it says something like, I think one of the best things I wrote here was that as our objective, we strive to encapsulate these values and experience in the logo. right? In the following pages, we'll explore 4 distinct logo options that embrace the spirit of Little Billy's and the commitment of delivering exceptional dining. So I'm trying to kind of set the mood, right?
Yes.
Before I heard this great conversation where someone saying, before you reveal the art, think of Mad Men and think of like how they always put something
Yeah.
first.
I've been thinking of Mad Men as I've been
Right?
listening to you here. Yes.
So instead of just saying Billy's concept number 1, I put this really cool line in saying embarking on a journey back to simpler
And then
times.
the whole presentation has some thematic nuance to it
Yes.
from the get-go.
Yeah, exactly. So they know like, oh, simpler times. We're going backwards here. This should
Yep.
be a little nostalgic, right?
Yes.
So I show the first logo, right?
Mhm.
Then I show colorways. I love this idea of being like,
Oh, interesting.
Bring
you
it to
don't
life.
wait to understand what the winner is in black and white before
Yeah.
furthering to color.
Exactly. So make a badge out of it. Maybe
Make a badge.
just do something fun with
A seal.
the letter.
Yes.
Exactly. Right.
And these color tones make sense based
Right,
on the
little
time
aged.
frame.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Have to show it in some way. So I love this mock-up of
Yep.
we knew this was going to be something painted on the glass when this was like whatever the final would.
Yeah.
And then I went back to that.
At this point, do you have people kind of leaning back and being like,
this was
because
I wish
mock-ups do
Yeah.
crazy shit with people.
I wish I could have recorded this presentation
That's
because
cool.
they were so happy. It was such a good and as designers, it's a great feeling, to
Oh,
have
for sure.
that.
For sure.
Going back to Adobe Firefly, I made these 2 visuals, and I asked for a coffee cup in that same cafe, and then a kind of a service person with a denim overall apron, and I
Yeah.
wanted to show how the logo would look there as well,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So then we get into number 2.
Okay.
This one became kind
Vintage
of the
charm.
one that really sold
Started
them.
to resonate big time.
Yeah. How does it look in color? Showing it again on the window, showing it in the applications. And, I'm going through these fast, but again, when you're doing this with the client, you really want
For
to
sure.
take the time. This one
Yeah.
was the whimsical nostalgia.
Do you
And
find that you say
Yeah.
a heads up, prelim heads up? I'm going to go through these fairly swiftly, and then let's get granular. You tell
Yeah, that's a good
upon
point.
all the concepts.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
I think it's more like I like to do it without the interruption. I don't
Yeah.
say that. I don't say but I think if you command the presentation, they're not they didn't say a word to the very end. And
I love how you have
nervous as hell.
incorporated a description here. Not that
Yes.
you expect everyone to read it at screen share presentation time, but you know that with the follow-up PDF, they're going to take the time
it
to
out.
thoroughly read this.
Yeah, so as an example, if you guys I'm glad you pointed that out. If you're not checking out the visual component here.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm glad you mentioned that because I'm
Okay.
going so fast.
Yes.
I put a little concept kind of note at the bottom. And this one says, this concept exudes a charmingly retro hand-drawn aesthetic with the lettering bearing the endearing imperfections of a child's playful doodles. Like, I wanted this one to look like Billy actually made it. And
I love it, Nick.
Okay, I will 100% confess. I wrote so much in ChatGPT going, I want this logo.
I understand. This
I
is
want
what
this logo.
this is a part of the process now.
Yeah, I can't wordsmith that.
No.
I wish I could. And
No.
at this stage,
You're okay.
I'm
Yeah.
still trying to win the business, right?
Totally.
So hiring someone
Oh,
that
wait,
can come down
back
the
up.
road. Yeah.
I'm still trying to win the business. What do you mean by that?
I've won we won the business. I had the deposit.
They've accepted the proposal. You've initiated the okay,
Yeah.
got it.
But
You're
again,
just
I
talking
think-
about
Yeah.
Oh, and by the way, I meant to ask, sorry, if this is one of several. Is it the start to a franchise? Is it going to be a food chain?
Yeah. So again, knowing that in advance and knowing that hey, if I get them past this and we get to a logo, bigger and better budgets happen later. And that's where maybe we can hire someone to be more specific and more, kind of customized to them.
Got it.
But for now, when it's just a one-person show,
Yep.
like a lot of us, I'm looking for any advantage I can to win them with all of this. So
Yes.
when I started doing this stuff, it really helped me sell it. And in turn, I was more confident in selling it. And I think that's the winning thing. If you still have those nerves, obviously that's a great thing, right? It means you care.
It
when you're
does.
presenting.
You're
Yeah.
right. That's what
Yeah,
it means.
but an
Not to
ounce
get
of
freaked
little-
out by it.
Yeah. An ounce of little confidence I'll take it any day, because it's like,
Yeah.
when I'm reading that, I know word for word that's going to sell this. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
So again, showing it in the colorways, showing it how it goes here. Interesting fun fact with this one.
Mm-hmm.
This one was the first to be omitted as not an option,
Okay.
but we knew this would be something we would explore when we did like the kids menu, or if
Okay.
we're going to do something for kids in like t-shirts,
I love
because
it.
it had a very
Isn't
kid-like
it nice to
charm.
hear people mention that aloud? Because then you
Yeah,
know it's not just pushing conceptual work to the side. It may be
exactly.
purposed in other means that
Yeah,
that are not primary, but
yeah.
but very, very much important. What did they think of this illustration with the pancake and the butter and the oozing syrup and that?
Again, it started like having, now it brought in more than just the mascot, but it brought in like little elements.
Yes.
And we got to kind of put those aside, because we knew we didn't want pancake to be in the logo
Okay.
once we
So
started
focused.
talking. But
Okay.
they had to see this to know
To understand that.
hey, this was a great call, but maybe we'll use it in merch. Like, merch is always where you can take and recycle a lot of some of your concepts,
Yeah.
which is
Yeah.
great. So
Right.
they were cool with it, but we knew, hey, do we want to be only a pancake house? Because they have really great burgers, they have great salads.
Yeah.
They didn't want to just be known for that, right?
Great.
So again, we went through the whole process. The second to the last one, again, you can see a new mascot kind of came through. He's holding pancakes on a dish.
Yeah.
Again, this one had a really, like, I call this one like the Incredibles one. It had like that really mid-century
Yeah. And
old
you could
diner.
tell straight away that it was resonating with them.
Yes, exactly. So
Mhm.
again, here,
Mhm.
and then more of that stuff. Last one, I threw this in. This was probably not needed, but I'm sure y'all can feel me on this. You feel like you
But you
need
don't
that
wanna
one
nix it.
more. You want that one more.
Yeah.
Like, we didn't do anything too like groovy or too like kind of Southern California,
Okay.
all that
Okay.
vibe. So
Yeah.
this was the last one we included, and
I
I
like
like
it.
it still.
It's very playful.
It is, right? And again, they loved it, but I was so glad they weren't the Frankenstein client where they wanted to see elements of 1 and elements of 4, and then the swoosh
Oh,
of this Y. Like,
that can drive you batty.
and I think it's up to us. Like, maybe I didn't need to send this in, but I wanted to make sure they felt like they were getting their money's worth. I think it was
Yeah,
just
the full
we always have
conceptual
those.
phase.
Yeah, we always have those like am I
Well, and
doing
it's
enough?
true. You hadn't really played with this type of, well, curvature for one.
The
There
feeling.
is not
Yeah.
a direction that has this type of whimsy
Yeah.
approach to it.
Yeah, exactly. And again, it's called for some more. It felt a little bit like what Burger King's doing right now, where they went back to
I
kind of
can
like
see that. I can see
70s
that.
groovy,
Thick,
Yeah,
weight, bold. Yeah.
exactly. But one thing I always love to do, in that one slide I showed you already, was at the very end, is I always put them all together in just
Yeah.
black and white.
See them
And
together.
I want them to see, so that way it could work. And
Yeah.
they immediately came back, and it was a very fast kind of situation. The winner was basically this one here. I'm sorry, number 2 right there. But with some changes. And so we were going to start finagling that a little bit. And while they were deciding, I kind of started doing some stuff with merch. So again, these were some mock-ups that I did where the stuff I made in Firefly, I just put our logo on it again. Like,
Yeah.
right? This
Yeah.
is as simple as it gets. I made this white coffee mug in the
Yeah.
setting.
Love
put in
it.
the logo just to see if they liked it.
Now, did you zoom into this, or did you just specifically query mug in the Firefly
Oh yeah.
app?
Yeah. So here we go. So look at this one. I'm going to take this one and I'll put that back into this piece here.
Billy knows flapjacks. I love it.
I love that one, right? So here we go. This is a waiter wearing a denim apron in a cozy mid-century modern and minimal breakfast diner interior, light blue, white, and wood tones, right? So that's what I added.
Okay.
Look at what it gave me. It's
Holy
like
cow.
it's like the best stock
Holy
photography,
cow.
right?
Yeah. So now we should mention really quickly for Adobe users, this is, yes, you have your ongoing Adobe Creative Cloud subscription, but this is for stock on top of it. So some opt to not pay for the Adobe stock and some do, but this takes the stock portion to the package to a whole new level.
Exactly, right? Like, and just to be customized to something specific you want, and to eliminate maybe an hour's worth of photoshopping to get the diner in the background specific to what you want. I found these to be so helpful I got to concentrate more on the logo and the art and the design, because a lot of this like background stuff was being done for me. And
it's wonderful.
I'll take that break.
It's so wonderful.
I love,
it's got the coastal vibe, and we're doing
right?
this old school retro direction, but it has some modernity to it. So
Exactly.
these images capture that combination.
I agree. It's just such a great advantage. And I'm telling you, wait till I show you some of the other stuff that like Illustrator can do now that makes the quick mock-up so cool. So again, love this idea. We had this one here as the winner. And then again, this is just me now taking the winner one and listening to some of their stuff. They didn't want the lines. They wanted a different tagline. The colors we were talking about this dark blue, a light blue, and like an oatmeal. So you know that feeling. You get into this whole thing now and you're like refining it. And where it came up with was this kind of like final style guide. This was every approved logo for the brand. So the hero logo, the stacked logo, the word mark alone, the tagline, the mascot, the badges. And I mean, this is, how many times have we talked about this, where if you could expand your logo package from, just one logo to, look at this, they got close to like 10.
Yeah.
It's such a great way for you to feel.
That's where branding has headed though.
Exactly.
Now.
Right.
And these types of seal directions.
Oh, the little badges. Yeah. It's great. And everyone's making merch. So like, set yourself up to have all of these things pre-approved.
Yeah.
So when merch comes, you're not redesigning anything. You're just picking and choosing from things that you've made.
Right.
And so then we got into then it was the menu time. So the menu became very simple, really clean. But one of the things I had to do was, this is one of my favorite things, is like, we had the font that we use in Little Billy's, which is this one here. It's called Alkaline. But to find that perfect font that is that pairs with it.
Yeah.
And this is that sign. What is this called? I think it's called Sign Painter. And it's by House Industries.
Yeah.
And it has that perfect, like, it looks like someone hand painted this beautiful hand lettering. And it has this great complimentary vibe.
It's somewhat familiar, but not totally familiar, which is comfortable.
Yes. Good call. I love those. If it's too jarring, it's going to be a little bit weird, right?
It's going to have standoffishness to it.
Exactly. And then, so this was the one that we were going to originally do that was going to hang like in the actual interior. And then obviously they needed like the printed version of it. So this is kind of like as simple as it got, but it has just enough of the characteristics, but you never want to make sure your menu is too complicated that it can't just be read, right?
Can you zoom into these two bubbles on either side of the hero logo up here?
Oh yeah, these are great. So breakfast served all day, and then like Newport Beach. So having those fun little areas to, I mean, you got a story to tell. And the best part is you can go back to those creative briefs you made, or even those, the taglines that didn't get chosen, and use those again. Like they can play in the inside, which is really, 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 really fun. So where it went from there was like the merch. And this is one of the coolest things. I don't know if you've played with this yet, but Adobe Illustrator, now you can do mock-up like right on Illustrator. You don't have to go to Photoshop. You don't have to do anything. So what I did was, this was the picture she sent me. This was the cap that they figured out, right? We love this dark blue. And we had this Little Billy's one from the kids menu. Remember this one, which was like kind of fun and cool. So what's neat about this is you could take the art you have, that's just vector. This is just a PNG in Illustrator. You select both of them, and there's a new feature called Mockup Beta, and you just hit create mockup here.
Oh my god.
What this is going to do is it's going to look at the cap, and it's going to figure out that it's like round, right? So watch what happens. As soon as it figures it out, it's going to curve Little Billy's.
Yes.
Watch. Now
and
watch
this. Is what you did, obviously, for the mugs.
Now watch this. Look at this. You could put it on the bill. You could put it on the side.
God.
Or you can put it right in the front. And then it's completely, you could turn it, right? Just like you can here. But notice it's keeping the perspective
Right.
Really
It's
amazing.
not warping it.
And then if you look at how it knows the surface area. So you've seen those ones where like maybe they put like just on the side now.
Totally.
So look at you're just dragging it. And this is in Illustrator of all things. It's kind of amazing that it's there. And again, you could do it with things.
I love the idea of not having to get into Photoshop with this stuff.
Exactly. And so let's say it's like here with the sweatshirt, I'll do the same thing. You
and
just
this
go to
is
mock
a PNG
up beta
as well.
Yep. So what's nice is it's usually, if it could come from the actual vendor that your client has selected, now you're getting an even better kind of view
representation
of that.
Real time.
Exactly. So now look at this. As I go through here, if I want it just on this, like let's say you just want it on the shoulder or you want it really small, it's within here. It's masked, which is really cool.
Yeah,
and you just get
masked.
it's really kind of nice. This was
crazy.
One of the coolest things that my client did that I thought was so cool. When we were doing all the merch, she put together this wonderful little like at a glance kind of thing where there's the oatmeal cap. It was getting this logo. There's the blue shirt. It was getting this logo. So she put this little like legend together, and how smart of her to do this, because then it made me think the next time I'm doing merch for a client, this is something we should be doing. I'm
in the middle of a project that's like this right now, and I love this.
Right?
I mean, merch and apparel can be tricky in this sense. I get so frustrated with Photoshop altogether, honestly.
Right, same. And this is so nice. This eliminates probably 15 to 20 emails back and forth. Like, wait, did we say logo 4 for the merch shirt? Like, to have this and it's approved, and all parties have it, including the vendor. The printer has this, and everyone's happy. So no one's bouncing back last minute comments and whatever. I just thought that was like so smart of her to do. So again, learn from your clients. This was a fun one. We had to do, this is a picture of the cafe prior, and you can see they almost had like a foam core sign on the top. It was so temporary.
Yeah.
And when they were building it, they needed decals for the front window. So we just made these ones like batter up for a flipping good time.
Yeah.
Then we did this opening soon. But what was funny was
fantastic.
One of the things by doing this like totally virtual, where I hadn't been to the store until grand opening. Hadn't even set foot into the actual site.
How far away is that from you?
On a good day, it should be about an hour, but on most days, like maybe hour and a half to 2 hour drive. So one of the, it was just didn't work out, and we were working so well virtually. But one thing that was kind of fun was when we did this, we didn't realize there was the door handle, and it covered. But it was so cool. The guy who I've been working with forever, who printed these out, and I connected with them, I believe he printed out like a brand new one when he saw that it was there. So totally the advantage of working with the people that and you can bring into new jobs, they're going to go out of their way for you. So like having those like really good vendors to be able to recommend is always like the best, right?
Oh, Nick, this is so fabulous.
To me, it was just the best. So those little badges became instantly what we did for signs and stuff like that too.
Those window panel decals, did you utilize the beta mock-up piece in Illustrator for those?
I didn't have to, because they had the measurements right off the bat, and she sent me a picture, so I just put them on there. There was no distortion to worry about. Now, if you gave me something that was like angled
to the side,
then I would probably use that out. Yeah, for sure. That's a good point.
Perfect.
So here's where everything started coming together, and all of a sudden we're making the merch, we're making the signs and all this stuff. And then they needed the soft opening like announcement. So it was like getting to be real. We were like, oh my God, it's actually opening. So it had to have like hours, and we built like a quick little landing page website that's just still kind of there for now until the big grand opening. But I want to show you kind of the finished product, which was kind of where we all ended up. And so here it is. I'm going to show, this is some of the fun stuff that we got to do. This was that flyer. The bag just came out so good. They opted for the 2-color project here. It's a lot of extra money to do like 2 silkscreen, colors per bag. But the fact that they wanted to do this one with the little white hit there, and it's in the checkerboard as well. If you look at it there's that little white hit that was really kind of cool. Here's the custom sign when you walk through the back entrance, which is really cool. Here's the front with the fun little sign, and
Oh,
to
how
see
great.
like the little Billy illustration like in real life, and
Oh, I bet it just feels
it
so
just
gratifying.
it's such a blast. Yeah. So here's the whole collection of all the packaging. We did an ice cup, a hot cup. We did the pastry bags. We did the bag, and then we did the little wax paper that they wrap
Yeah.
sandwiches up,
Yeah.
and then the little keychains. You got to do these little like
I
the little
love
hotel
these.
keychains. They're so retro,
Meet
and
me
they
at Little Billy's. And
yeah,
that's a different font there.
totally. So that one, when you get to those things, I think that's where you get to play a little bit. And I don't want the Little Billy's font to be used so much that it takes away from its originality, like in the
Yeah,
logo. So
I
like
get
if you
it.
start using it a lot, it kind of
Yeah.
takes away the charm.
Yeah,
So
understand.
this one was a little bit fun and groovy for the Meet Me at
Yes.
Billy's, which was kind of fun.
And jives
Yep.
with the brand.
Yep. Here's the sandwich bag, the pastry bags, which was awesome. A little bit more there.
Gorgeous.
They took this great shot. Kudos to the photographer. He found this car outside and was like, "Wait a minute, baby blue,
Oh,
let's
have to.
go."
Have to.
God, like just
So
every
fantastic.
designer's dream, right? It
Yeah.
was so
Oh,
cool.
that's so wonderful.
And then the merch, Lauren, who's one of the business partners as well, she did this beautiful job by putting all the merch up on the wall. And it's because
Oh,
like,
why
you know,
not
you could,
display it?
right? You got to like, and she's already like
Yeah.
selling out, and it's so nice to see that. Like it's
Oh,
brand
that's
new
great.
to the
That's
area.
great.
Here's a beautiful shot of inside, and
Gorgeous.
then some more here. And then the last one here just shows a nice close up of both of the cups. So, you know, it really like this
Really
was
well done.
thank you so much. It was about a
Really
10-month,
beautiful.
I want to say 10 to
10?
11
I was
months.
just going to ask about duration.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So,
Yeah.
and you're counting from discovery to the time that these photos were taken in-house.
Yeah.
Is that the 10-month time frame, or are you
Easily.
referring to Okay.
Yeah. I mean from day one till like soft opening. Yeah. It's
Amazing.
wild. It's such
You have
a
to go
gratifying.
eat there.
Oh, the coolest thing was I was showing my class every step of the way. Each night I'd come in and they'd be like, "What's going on with the Little Billies?" And I'd show them like the latest and greatest. So when it opened, a bunch of them came with me, and we all drove down there and went last weekend. And it's freaking delicious. It is
Oh,
so
that's
good.
awesome. I
If
mean,
you are
it
anywhere
looks
near
that
there,
way. And
yeah,
I know that it probably is ridiculously delicious. At the same time, when you have beautiful branding and packaging and nuances of beverage and food in-house in this respect, you're looking around, you feel good in the atmosphere, and the taste jives with those
yeah,
visuals and how you're taking in the atmosphere and all of your surroundings, not having to do anything with who you're dining with. Do you know what I mean?
yeah. I love that. That's a great connection. I think when the atmosphere and the experience come together,
You
sometimes
cannot beat that combo.
you don't have control over your execution, right? That's their job.
No, they might
All
have
you,
shitty delivery,
yeah,
like maybe they fucked up
sure.
on a food item, it was late and they got the
Mhm.
wrong order to the wrong table or whatever the case may be. But if you have
Yeah.
all of these in your surrounding, oh,
Oh,
it
it's
means
just the best
something.
feeling. Yeah. And I can't wait. Like at any time, I've never seen something that I've gotten to work on get such a good response from just seeing the coziness and the vibe. And that you learn a lot from these ones. This is the one where I'm like, there's so much that I felt like I was winging, but it was all for the betterment of not only them and their final result, but you as a designer and you as a business owner. I've already got 2 inquiries from other businesses who saw this. So like
I love that you put together this story. And
oh, thanks.
for these types of projects, even if they don't, even if you don't have such a respectable photographer as a part of the client in the end, do this journey, prepare this visual journey anyway. I know you're so good at that. I'm all talk and then I can't find the time to do it. I know.
But this was, hey, if I didn't have those, I was all set to go down there with a new camera or whatever and like make the investment to do, you know, like to take those pictures next thing I got to do now is build the case study for it, right? And how does that look?
Absolutely.
And I want to learn from this and change up that whole idea, put something new and refreshing together. So I'm not just saying the same thing over and over again.
No, you're not. And it's uniqueness through and through.
Yeah. But thanks for letting me share
I
with that.
Loved it. What a thorough,
we got to get you out here.
Enjoyable.
You next time you're in town,
I have to. What an enjoyable story.
Yeah.
You prepared it so well. You presented it so well.
Thanks.
And you presented it so well for us here, but you presented it clearly so well.
I hope
real time with the client on the job. Yeah, 10 months. 10 months. So within this specific package, you start with the branding, of course, the persona, all that. But then after brand toning and everything, did they request that a part of the project be menu, signage, interior? Was that all a part of the scope up front?
Yes,
and defined?
We really broke that down. I made sure it was I've learned from past restaurant experiences that you got to lay it out down to the details. And if you haven't done one before, talk to a friend that has done it before, and just so you know what to add. They really, the one thing that I think, and I love that they did this, they wanted a flat fee. They were like, this is our budget. And it worked out perfectly. I just,
and then
this is what you're going to get.
Front too? Like what are we talking?
We did it in breakdown because we knew it was going to be this at least 10 months, maybe 8 months was the goal.
Yeah.
And at that, if someone's coming to you and saying they need it in 3 to 4 weeks, different story. But knowing it was going to be that, I did down payment, and I believe it was cut into 3. So it was like 33, 33, 33. Which was kind of customary.
Yep.
And they've been so good on even they're like, did we go over what we've already previously agreed on?
They were
100%. Yeah.
Clearly not apt to going through this process and wanting to be open and upfront, transparent with you about all of those steps. How many people on their end, hands in, on deck, collaborating with you?
2.
Okay, 2. So I was prepared for you to say 5, which can be difficult to manage.
Wouldn't have worked. Yeah.
No.
They knew exactly what they wanted. So the 2
but
included.
Now with this under your belt and also under theirs of nothing short of success, if they need further printed, whatever, collateral, merch, they're going to be calling you. You have all of this.
Family. Yeah. That's the best.
It's such a beautiful story. Be hands.
That's all I want.
Hello. Fucking
Thank you, B. I know. Hey, that's the new thing. So it's like if our potential clients have figured it out, maybe we should figure,
maybe we should. Yeah.
They're ahead of us on that. And I get it. Wouldn't you as a business owner want to find some leg up in finding the right people? And if someone told you there's this thing where these artists are on there, you can look at all their work and you only have to contact them when it's someone you want to work with.
Yeah.
It makes their life a lot easier.
Yeah. You're going to have to explain to everyone after you release the show.
Yeah.
And understand why Billy has contacted you saying, I've noticed so many people are checking out my LinkedIn profile. Do you have anything to do with this?
Right. Yeah. That's it. I know. It's great. It's so
sweet.
And it's just sometimes you get those jobs, and I'm sure you know exactly what I'm talking about. You say to yourself, carbon copy this. This is all I want to do. This is, that's stuff.
It reminded you. I mean, it reminded you, I'm sure, throughout the entire process, day by day, for 10 months straight, why you love doing this so much.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing about restaurants to me is it reminds me of going as a kid with your family to those places, and they made such a impact on you as a kid, or maybe it was a family destination that you and your family loved. It was the once a month Friday thing, and to think that you get to create something that someone's going to have that same experience, it's just crazy. And I think that's the blessing we get to have, is what we do. I mean, it just all makes sense. It adds up.
It does. How wonderful, Nick. Thank you so much.
Oh, I'm so glad you mentioned this one. Yeah.
That was a blast.
I loved it. This was good. You can tell I could talk about this one for
hours. I'm with you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But thanks for going along this journey, and I hope you guys got something out of it. And drop any questions you have. We're always here to help you guys. So
yeah, the
if you have anything,
presentation means don't cut it short. Go above and beyond. You never know.
always,
And
right?
anticipate that you're going to go above and beyond when you're preparing your estimate and or proposal, knowing
Always.
to not cut it short and to know that so that they understand in the end that you're well worth the budget. And for future projects, Nick, you may very well, I mean, you may have already thought this to yourself, so bear with me.
Keep going.
You may truncate this presentation you prepared and delivered for this episode today as a part of your proposal process for any upcoming
Yes.
project that you know is Bev branding restaurant based altogether, so that not that it would be anything reflective, it won't mirror this exactly the brand itself, but so that you can share with them the depth that you go to.
Yes, it's good to show the next potential one how like if they want to see a little behind the curtain before signing on anything, you can show them this in
and how
confidence.
much is too much to share? That's an interesting subtopic on its own.
But you had a great point in saying you might be building a deck like that for the first time with your next client, but guess what? It's built. So now
it's built. It's
it
done.
becomes the new
case
template
studies right there
for the next one, and you're saving hours of time.
Yeah.
So,
very cool.
Cool stuff.
Yeah, I loved it. Because so many of these accounts, they don't know what they don't know. They don't know the process and all the many pieces in between.
Exactly.
And what it takes. They see a number and they're like, well, what the fuck am I going to get? What does that mean?
I know.
What's my deliverable then?
I was talking with a friend yesterday who sent out his largest proposal ever. He was so nervous.
It's daunting. Yeah.
And again, I was like, bro, one, you're worth it. And two, that's what it costs. And don't cut yourself short on that. And I think he gets to see through his proposal thing how many times they've opened it. He's like, they've opened it 3 times.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, that can be opening. And you think, if you're feeling insecure, you're like, oh, shit, they're scratching their heads. I know that they are,
Yeah, he'll get it for sure.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, wonderful.
All right. Well, that was awesome. Thanks so much for running through that with me. That was great.
Thank you.
All right, guys. We will catch you at the next one. Have a great day.
Next one. So much fun.